Good evening and welcome to the 5th session of Christmas Made Easy. My name's Jessica Doyle. I'm the Telegraph's Design and Interiors Editor. This evening's session is going to be split into 2 parts. First up, I'm joined here by Bryony Sheridan, who's the Buying Manager for Home and Interiors at Liberty. And Bryony's going to be sharing her top gift wrapping hacks. And then later on, we'll be joined by the event designer and stylist extraordinaire Fiona Leahy, who's going to be providing lots of inspiration for festive table setting. So let's get started. So Bryony, tell me, when do you tend to start your Christmas wrapping?
Well, gosh, I mean, I'll be really honest with you, I do tend to leave it a little bit last minute just because December is very busy for me. But I really enjoy doing it. So at the weekend, I will quite often try and, start earlier, as early as possible, but I will always have a glass of wine and some Christmas music on. I try and do most of it in a day, but that doesn't really ever kind of happen.
Yeah. And do you tend to have a theme?
Absolutely. So that's how I will always start. And I will try and centre the theme around all of my decorations because I like to have the tree with the presents underneath. So I like it all to kind of match, and I'll either pick a colour, or this year I'm really focusing on sort of that very maximalist floral that I'm sort of quite synonymous with. And so lots of Liberty print, but lots of, like a sort of menagerie of kind of decorations, and quite an eclectic offer this year, I think.
Yeah. And so if we could sort of start with a few general tips for wrapping. I know something that always comes up is what do you do with that really awkwardly shaped gift? How do you wrap it and make it look good?
I mean, it's always, I absolutely hate a sort of cuddly toy. That's the worst, I think. I am really, really terrible because I will either buy or reuse a box. So I will always put that sort of vase or, the sphere, that's the worst to me to wrap up. And even wine I will always put in a bag and quite often wrap it around the bag. But I think just putting it in a box just makes it so much easier. And also they stack better when you've got them in the car or you're giving them to people. So yeah, top tip is just collect your boxes.
Use a box. Yeah. And do you have any tips for sort of getting a neat edge on your boxes?
Oh, absolutely. So I can show you actually. We can do a little demo, but I am a sort of a fan of folding. So if we do, let's do this little one here. So I think a lot of wrapping paper that you buy now has the lines on the back, which is obviously absolutely brilliant, and has changed the way that we can sort of measure. I have been known to get a ruler out before, so I think it's probably, I don't have enough time for that in my life. I'm just going to move this along a bit. And so I am very good at judging it by eye, but the sort of rule is when you've got the side, you want to be able to obviously cover. So the sort of trick is that if you've got 2 sides meeting, then you kind of just want to go slightly over half. So you look at sort of how thick the side of the box is, and you don't need a huge amount because you're obviously going to meet in the middle. And so I'm probably tend to do it by eye now and can always snip off, but obviously you want to waste the sort of least amount of wrapping paper as possible. I think one of the most sort of saddest things that we have at the moment is on a Christmas morning when there's all these piles of wrapping paper that we don't use anymore. So if you are using paper, I would always recommend using one that can be recycled. I think it's such a waste if not. So anything that's sort of laminated or that has glitter on is a little bit sort of problematic for the environment. So again, the same thing. So all you need to do is just make sure that you're kind of meeting in the middle. And again, you can do this by eye. You can get out a ruler if you really want to. You do kind of get into the habit of doing it properly. But there's sort of my trick is to always fold the edge, and then you don't have to be too prescriptive.
Right.
So I think I'm kind of happy with this. And then this paper is very clever and has these perfect lines on. And so I will just try and meet in the middle and check it works, which is great. And then I love a fold. I think it's the best way. I always have. And I think it also just gives you a really nice crisp edge.
Yeah.
Now with sellotape, there are lots of nice sustainable sellotapes out there now, and actually I think probably the plastic we're moving away from. But I really do I love the sort of magic Scotch tape because you can almost hide it, but also it's secure. I can't bear it when you've wrapped a present and then it all unravels. There's just nothing worse. So I always start in the middle, nice clean fold, and then on the edge I keep it really nice and tight, and I really sort of focus on just making sure that the edges are folded down. And what I will do is I'll always do one end first, and then I will not stick it so that it's kind of in place. And then I will do the other edge. Actually, I've not moved it along, not quite in the middle. So I will do the one edge first and fold it down and get it into place. But I won't stick it. And then this edge will be my second edge. And this is the one I will stick down. And doing that sort of holds it in place a little bit better.
That's a really good tip.
And it's actually really easy because it will wobble around, that's the whole thing, but I can't bear it when you kind of sort of a flappy edge.
Yeah.
And then just one bit of tape, perfect. And then you can always, to make it sure it's as tight as possible, stand it on its edge. And I'd say just always try and pull it just nice and tight, and it just gets the edges really neat.
Yeah. Do you ever use double-sided tape so that you don't see it? Or?
I do, but I think life's too short.
Yeah, it can be a bit fiddly.
It takes
can't
so
it?
long.
Yeah.
Takes so long. So yeah, and then that's just obviously a really neatly wrapped, although quite boring, present. And then I quite like using brown paper, mainly because if I've got lots of presents, which my family seem to sort of overbuy, it's one of, I think most people do, which is also not good, but we do tend to have a lot of presents in a big family. I will always colour theme my ribbon. So I've got a niece that I will probably pick pink for, and I'll make sure that all the ribbons match so that she knows that anything with a pink ribbon on is hers.
Yeah.
And then I will also try and put something sort of exciting on, not every present, but just a few of them to make sure that they look really exciting, because obviously it is just brown paper.
Yeah.
So I quite often put a Christmas decoration on the sort of main present, and they know that's the last one they can open.
That's a really nice idea.
So shall I show you how to do my ribbon? I've got,
Yeah.
over the years, I'm just going to find a nice bit of, here we'll use this lovely green one. Over the years, I think I perfected my bow, and it's a really simple bow, but it means that you can undo it without cutting it. So when you invest in lovely ribbons, which I always do, I think it's one of my biggest investments around Christmas, I want people to reuse them. And there's a bit of a joke, because my sister will quite often go and pick all the ribbon at the end of the day and has this huge bag of ribbons that she uses. And I'm always like, oh, right, okay. So the sort of general rule is, if you haven't got a square, you pick your longest side, and you measure 4 times, so generous 4.
Ah, okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the sort of other thing to remember, that if you've got a thicker ribbon, you need a bigger bow, so to always give yourself a little bit extra. And then I kind of do give myself a little bit extra anyway.
Yeah.
And then the real trick on this is finding the centre point, because you just don't want to waste it. And I can't bear it when you've kind of done the bow and then you haven't got enough of one of the sort of legs of it.
Yeah.
So I will meet in the middle. Again, you've just got to get used to it, but it's by eye. And the other tip is to keep it really tight. So that's my kind of, keep it really taut and try and sort of not let it go baggy. So I put one in the middle, and then I turn it over and meet in the middle and twist. And then this is the bit that seems so simple, but none of my family have ever seemed to manage. That if you put your right under the centre and then your left under both, it's all nice and positioned, and you just pull, and then you can tie a bow.
Wow.
And it stays, which is
That's so
easy.
clever.
Yeah, but also I'll show you. So we'll wrap it up. I'm going to give this one let's give it to my nephew. So I love a label that you can recycle, because I just think it's such a shame if you waste them. So sometimes you need to do a little bit extra on here. This is the bit that's really fiddly and not good if you've had like 3 mulled wines. And so this is when I will put a little decoration on.
Oh, lovely. It's like an extra present.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
I think it's really sweet. And also I love the idea that you collect lots of baubles throughout, throughout the years. And then I just do an extra knot. And then I'm done.
So clever.
And then I will always finish off with a point. So easy as anything. You just get your scissors. Again, this is practice. But you just meet it in the middle and then do a nice little point. Like that. And that's all you need to do.
That looks amazing.
So yeah, that's really simple.
Yeah.
And again, you can use loads of different prints or, loads of different wrapping. So it might be that you know, all of your wrapping paper, you know, are different for your family members, but they all kind of match. And so they all look nice sort of stacked under the tree, and then there's the little decorations.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And then we touched earlier on sustainability and how that's become at the come to the forefront of all our minds, really, particularly lately. And there is obviously so much waste normally at Christmas. So how do you wrap in a way that people can sort of reuse the wrapping, reuse it for something else?
So I've got loads of fabric here because for the last few years I've started using fabric instead of paper. So again, you can't really do that on every single gift if you're buying a lot, because fabric is obviously expensive. But this is sort of my take on the Japanese style of wrapping. I can show you here. So this is, I don't think I have an exact science to it, so it's more that I just like the look of it. So the idea is that you pick a square of fabric, and again, you don't have to just use a square box. It could be, we can do a different shape one in a second, but you sort of need to lay it out as best possible. And then the idea is that you're kind of folding over the fabric and then tying it in a knot. So these are all my interpretation of how I would do it. This is a really good example. But probably just need to sort of make sure that the folds are all in place. And that way you can have really pretty presents with all the prints, but that fabric can A, be used again, B, it could be used for crafting or, you know, sort of like New Year activities with kids. And so it's just a nice kind of way of not having this mound of like recycling, and I like it. And it also is, you know, you don't have to use Liberty print, you can use any fabric, or you could just sort of cut up some, you know, like old curtains or whatever. It could be a really fun theme. And yeah, so the trick is you get a nice square of fabric, which like this, and then you place your box or your present, and you want to take one end and you basically want to make sure that this is tucked as centre as possible. And again, because it's on the bias, because it's cut in a square, it is quite wobbly. So you do have to be sort of gentle, but gentle but firm, if you like. And probably ideal if you had a little bit more space. And then you keep turning. And then on this one, you obviously want to hide the end. So what I do, and I don't think that this is actually the technical way of doing it, but it works for me, is I just flip it over and shake it out. And then it's so easy, you just tie a knot here. And I like to just finish off like this.
That looks so pretty.
And then that is honestly so easy.
Yeah.
And so this is obviously quite a small box, and that works really well. And then even with a bigger one, you can just about do it, I think, with the sort of same size square. So even if it's, you know, you've got a smaller piece of fabric, because this is obviously a bigger scarf box, you just make sure that this is as neat as possible. And you only really need to make sure it's covered once. And on this one, I would probably flip this. So it's a little bit tight, but I'd probably just keep it this way. It's all tucked in.
So effective, isn't it?
Oh, it's just so easy, and also if you're time poor, which I always seem to be, so quick.
Yeah.
So
I bet that looks amazing under the tree as well.
Yeah,
all the
they
different
look
fabrics.
so cute. I think this is a really nice way. And then, of course, if you've got fabric left over and you don't want to fill all your presents, you know, under the tree with all the sort of fabric wrapped, you can just make some offcuts of ribbon. And I think this is a really nice way of using up the ends. And so obviously you won't have meters and meters of fabric, so you can just easily join two together, which will be your centre point. And so we know that one's going to be at the middle, and either you can just do a sort of smaller, I mean, we didn't need this much, but you can either just do, one to have a little bit, or you can go and do a really nice bow. Yeah. I love a bow, so we'll do another one. So yeah, same theory applies. So 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit extra, so fine. And you go in the middle.
That's such a lovely fabric, isn't it?
Oh, this is one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Like like a nice Christmas rose. I don't actually think it's supposed to be for Christmas, but
it works.
It works. So under, and then I'll show you how it undoes in a minute actually. And then just make sure that this one goes under both. And so I haven't actually cut the fabric, I've ripped it.
Right.
Which obviously saves so much time.
Yeah.
The only problem is you get the little stray bits of fabric. And so that then you can just
lovely.
cut.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how easy it is to unwrap as well.
That's such a great cutting trick.
Oh, I love it. Oh, gosh, it's my favourite thing in the world, yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes it look really, really neat, I think. So then, if I just ask you to open it.
Okay. Yeah. So then it's just...
Well, shall I show you the trick? You just literally do that, and it's already undone.
Yeah.
So it's really easy, especially for children.
Yeah, so then you do that,
You can just sort of wiggle it and it kind of comes out. So yeah.
Great, and then you can use it again.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, those are my sort of fabric tips, I'd say.
Yeah.
And they work, with most boxes, again, which is another reason why I love having a box.
And what size were the fabric squares that you were just using there, Bryony?
So I actually did these by eye because I don't have an exact science. But the sort of trick is that you need to really have, I think, probably 3 or 4 times the size of the longest box. But don't forget, you need a square, even when you're doing a rectangle. Because I can show you actually on this one, we'll unwrap this one. So the whole point is that you sort of do it on the angle. This is actually not one I did very well earlier. So let's just show you on this shape. So this one here is probably going to be, because it's on a long, so this is probably only 2.5 times this sort of length. But again, because it's not a square, you can kind of, you just can really sort of play by ear. I'm sure there is an exact science to it, which I've never really mastered. But the idea is that you just need to make sure that it's all covered.
Yeah.
And then the end I always sort of flip over. So this is, here we go. Make it nice and neat. So what I would do here is I just kind of come under, probably a bit further actually, so that it comes up this side. Perfect. Maybe a little tiny bit more. Great. And then I'd flip it, and then I'd just come up. So this, although it's a slightly bigger piece of fabric, we just wrapped it over more time. So again, you probably, it's easier for next year. Yeah. You don't have to recut. Yeah. So yeah,
lovely.
I think they're really easy.
Yeah.
And then of course you can add the decorations onto here as well, which I think add even more magic.
Yeah. How would you do that? How would you sort of secure it to the...
Before you tie it,
yeah.
So it's always much handier if you have actually got somebody else. But most decorations have got a little hole. So you can either do that or, which may work, let's see if the corgi goes on. Yeah. About playing with it a little bit. So you don't want it to be too tight because it might break the glass. Yeah. Here we go. And then he's on.
Lovely. So cute.
And of course, if you wanted to add a tag, then you can just obviously, tie that on to the decoration.
Yeah, lovely.
So yeah, those are my absolute sort of top tips.
Yeah.
I think the ribbon for me is kind of one of the things that I like to sort of, focus on having the different colours. It's just always really nice.
That's such a nice thing. So everyone knows, just look for your colour ribbon and that's your present. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Bryony. We've got quite a few comments from readers saying that, just saying how they got family members that always used to save up all the wrap and wrapping paper and then try and reuse it. And so it's already out there that people are trying.
And that's the thing, you can. I mean, some of my mum's friends have ironed their wrapping paper before. So,
ironed, wow.
Yeah, to get the creases out. So there are things that you can do. I just can't bear, when you see those massive sort of recycling bags full of paper, it just it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So anything you can do to reuse is great. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Bryony. That was great. So many tips. It's brilliant.
Oh, good. Good. I'm so pleased. Thank you.
Well, I think Fiona should be ready to join us now to talk about table setting, which I know is something that you're also amazing at, Bryony. So, hopefully she'll be joining us in a sec and just giving us ideas for those finishing touches that you can add to your table, homemade things that just make your festive table look really extra special. Do you tend to set the Christmas table for your family dinner?
And I have this sort of very strict rule, and it's this sort of family tradition that I like to have a present for everybody on the table.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
My gran used to have this quite hideous looking snowman that she always used to fill with presents, so that's kind of a family tradition now. There's always a table present.
That's really nice. Oh, hello, Fiona's here. Hello, Fiona, how are you?
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's so nice. I actually feel like this has been amazing exercise. I feel so festive. I'm like, literally ready for Christmas. I'm just going to, after this, curl up and go to sleep and then wake up on Christmas Eve and it's all going to be done.
So can you tell us a bit about your festive table this year, Fiona, and what you will be doing, how you'll be setting your table?
How is that angle? Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, great.
So, my festive table this year is very, it's very bountiful. I'm embracing burgundy and fruits, and I really love, so basically my theme is burgundy and pale pink, and I always think that burgundy is a really beautiful option. I find red sometimes a little bit too garish, so to me burgundy is it's the most beautiful color, and it's the color of my favorite drink, which is red wine. And and you know, when you're drinking lots of red wine and everything is burgundy, nothing can go wrong. So I have set my table with really beautiful, more country flowers, like blown roses, anemones, and then there's some really lovely lichen here and amaranthus. Can you see this? It's Love Lies Bleeding. And then I really love having pomegranates and grapes.
Oh, lovely.
I know.
Yeah.
I love, you know, I love grapes on the table because I always feel like if you're not the most amazing chef, at least your guests can come and snack on like mini apples and honestly. And then what else have I done? So yeah, burgundy linen tablecloths, really lovely amber tea lights. I love these for a little bit of illumination. And then tall candles, different sizes. These are Murano, edged in burgundy, and then different heights to add that variety.
Yeah, yeah. And then when it comes to those sort of finishing touches for to make it look festive, what do you do? What are your favourite things to do?
Surprise, surprise. I love crackers. I absolutely love them. I'm obsessed with them. I love making crackers with marbled paper, and I keep this throughout. I keep all my papers throughout the year. And then I recently collaborated with Hand and Lock because I am so obsessed with crackers or with embroidered bows to have monograms and embroidery on all of my ribbons. So can you see that there?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so pretty.
And then I was going to show you guys how to make a Christmas cracker, actually.
Great, that would be perfect.
Yeah. So it really is my favorite thing to do. I use it to gift, to also show people where they're sitting. I use it as a form of placement. Yes, so I get a piece of marbled paper, and then a scalpel. It's really fun. This is like something I love to do in front of the fire. And I usually just cut along a couple of lines and then trace it out with a scalpel, like so. It's really like a form of meditation sometimes doing this.
Yeah.
And then I need a toilet roll. Thank you. I have an elf here helping me. Actually, if you give me that one. There. So what I do then, and this is actually a really handy trick if you like hoarding things or keeping things throughout the year. I use a toilet roll holder or a toilet roll for the center, and that kind of houses whatever you're putting inside. And then I need a cracker. Where's the cracker thing? Oh yes, and interesting bit of intel about Christmas crackers. They were actually started in England by Tom Smith. Is it Tom Smith? Tom Smith, who was a confectioner who lived in the East End. and he went to France, and he was really inspired by bonbons, which saw them really beautifully wrapped and with things inside. And he was sitting by his fire one evening, and it went pop, and he put the two together and decided, and that's when crackers were born. So
that's good. That's such a good tip.
And apparently he has a fountain in his honor.
Oh, amazing.
I know.
Fiona, I'm just going to leave the screen so that everyone can get a real close-up of what you're doing, so that everyone can really see your hands. But don't worry, we can all see you. But I just won't be here for a minute. But I'll pop back in and ask some questions as they come up from readers, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So I have my toilet roll and my piece of paper that cracks, and then I just roll it together like so. And then I will take it together like this. And then I tie the ends with a really skinny piece of string. I need another skinny piece of string as well. Thank you. So that basically it just bunches up nicely. And I tie it really firmly like this, around. Okay, then the cracker goes back in. And then I decide what I'm putting in my cracker. More often than not, I like to put in a crystal. I really love people getting crystals, this is a lovely piece of jade. I put in the meaning of the crystal so that you pop the cracker and it gives you, I don't know, a nice vibration. I've often sat around the table and people get a crystal they just weren't expecting, or which really resonated with them. And it's just a fun conversation point. Sometimes also I put in beauty products, like I've got glow drops, lipsticks. If it's more male orientated, I do a scar. So tie both ends, and then I adorn them with a bigger bow on top, like this one. And that's really it. That's how simple it is. I love the sound of them popping. I just have to do that to get into the holiday spirit. But I love Christmas crackers. I use them all year round, and yeah.
Yeah, there is a bit of a trend at the moment, isn't there, for the sort of fabric crackers, which look lovely, but then you don't get that snap, which is sort of
You've got a snap, or it's not a cracker. It's got to crack.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know, but those are really lovely as well. But you know, the thing about it is, I use the ribbons. These ribbons are like a year old. I tie them. I have bows. I'm even wearing bows again. But I use ribbons all the time. Like they really they're perennials. They come out year after year. And then I use old wrapping paper. So it's still, and toilet rolls. So it's kind of, you know, I'm still recycling.
So it's a way to use up those bits of wrapping paper from the year before, maybe, that you saved up. You can make them into crackers. Yeah.
Absolutely. I find it really hard to throw away really nice wrapping paper or any type of paper or card. And then another thing that I really love to do is personalized snow globes.
Oh, great.
I know. So I really love when you sit down. Where's one I made earlier? I really love, where is it? Oh, yeah. Oh, so here's a snow globe with my name in it. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
And what I've done, so I get a very plain snow globe. There's an amazing snow globe company called snowglobes.co.uk. Sounds like I'm sponsored, I'm not. But they just sell all sorts of snow globes. And more often than not, so for this one, to match my tablescape, I sprayed the base burgundy, which just kind of gives it a nice touch. I really like things to, I do like things to match, but I really like the base of the snow globe to match my table linen. So
would you just do that with spray paint?
Just a little bit of yeah, spray paint.
Okay.
Super easy. Another little crafting activity. Let me get one that's, oh yeah, where's one that's open? So then, okay, so I'm going to show you how you do this. So, or I'll just get one that's not done at all. Thank you. So basically, inside every snow globe is a little hatch or a secret compartment, which you can use to slide in either a picture or, I mean, anything you really want. But what you need to do is get a piece of card, like so, and then they always come with a piece of card inside. So what you do is you just replicate. So it comes with like that shape. Put it on another piece of card like this, trace around it, and then it's like a little mouse hole, and then cut around, listen to some carols, drink some wine. Oh, and then my new favorite toy from this year is Tombow pens. Again, I'm not sponsored. I'm just very zealous about things that I love. And Finn Fellows, who's the most amazing calligrapher, she was doing calligraphy for a trip, and I sadly couldn't take her with, but she said, okay, if there's any last minute additions, please take these amazing Tombow pens. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are they? And they're really, it's a really great pen. It's got two sizes of nib. There's a thicker one on top, which is kind of more painterly, and then it has a narrower one at the bottom. And what's really amazing is that they come in the most beautiful colors. I probably have like a raging pen obsession right now, but they, you know, like the perfect forest green or sage green. And so this is a really lovely plum. And then I've chosen a dusky pink card. And then I will just do a first name only because it's Christmas and it's informal. And here is, I'm actually not an I'm not a great calligrapher, but the reason these really transformed my ability to do plasmon is they are actually quite foolproof. Like everybody has good handwriting with these, I think anyway.
Oh, that's a really good tip. Yeah, that always helps, doesn't it?
Well, you know, the thing is we all get and also because I do events for a living, I always feel like everything has got to be done completely correctly and properly. And, you know, I think, oh, you have to calligraphy. Well, you don't have to calligraphy, and nobody's got a calligrapher unless you're very lucky sitting on Christmas Day. So it's a really nice way of taking it into your own hands, quite literally, and doing your own calligraphy. Okay, so here is Alex, and I am going to slide it in like this.
Yeah.
And then snap shut like a little, and then you have a plasmon.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah. A snow globe, which I love. I also love coming and sitting down at the table and just having lots of things that are quite tactile and can be played with. You talk about tablescaping. I think that's the really interesting thing, is like lots of layers and peaks and troughs of interest, you know, so you have like high candles and maybe higher arrangements, and then you have lower little things like this that you play with, and then, you know, crackers, and that there's all these different moments of interest, which just add so much joy to a table.
Yeah. And what other things would you do for for table settings, Fiona? Do you have any other tips for just sort of making the placements just look even extra special?
I really like using things that I already have, that are already existing, and then adding little pieces of card. Colored card is the most amazing thing, and getting like a little hole punch and a little bit of ribbon. And again, just writing somebody's name. Oh, my Christmas elf is passing me some plasmon. I also have plasmon cards. I always do have plasmon cards spare. These are ones that we make in the studio, but they're so nice. You can get plasmon cards from so many companies. Smythson, Papier, there's so many. And again, I would use something like this and maybe attach it onto my cracker and write in the same coloured ink, and use that as a plasmont. Some really, Dior actually have this really lovely trick, which I quite like, which I think is super chic, of writing somebody's name. Or maybe I'll just write my name. And then they simply place it on the top of the glass like that, which I think looks really nice. And doesn't take up any real estate, as they say, on the table.
Fiona, when it comes to the floral arrangements that you have on your table, what's the best height, do you think, for something that gives a good impact, but that people can still see each other over the top of it to chat?
I think, well, you need to make sure you never really go above eye level. I always kind of think that you take your elbow, it's like that high. So you put your hand under your chin. It should never be higher than that, because you just don't really want to have anything going through your line of vision. You know, you can have things that are taller for sure, but they just always need to be in between people. So like handle, if it was like that, would be super annoying. But to the left or to the right. So it's that thing of like getting spaces. I always have a tape measure to hand, pretty much always. Yeah. So figuring out, you know, the widths and the heights of everything is really important.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess for you, if you're entertaining at home, you would always have the table totally set and ready before people arrive, so that with plates and glasses and everything on it, so that you get that maximum impact when people come in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
I really love rehearsing. That's the best bit. I really like doing it. I really don't like doing it in a rush. I'm like, yeah. But then I kind of have a table wardrobe. Actually, they're here. I just built them this year, actually. The best thing that happened from lockdown. And I have 2 table wardrobes. So I have all my linens down here, all of my tablecloths. And then here I have all of my napkins and ribbons in here. And then glasses. So I just am constantly, and then my table is here. So I'm constantly taking things on and off and playing dress up. Yeah. So it's kind of always semi-dressed, to be honest.
And how do you feel about sort of mixing and matching different colours? How do you do that in a way that looks sort of good and not just a bit of a mess?
I always choose a couple of colours. I try and have a couple of references, kind of like when you're doing an interior scheme. I think I kind of try and have 3 colors, sometimes just 2, it depends. I also, I mean, that being said, we did an event not too long ago and it was completely monochrome. Like if you did something that was burgundy on burgundy, that would also be lovely. But I do think you have to figure out your colors and play with them and see what is, you know, what's going with what goes together, really. You know, yeah. Pink and green is beautiful. Pink and burgundy is gorgeous. There were so many amazing combinations, but I wouldn't have too much color.
Yeah, yeah. And we've had a few readers who'd like to know just how you sort of stack the different elements of a place setting, the plates and how you lay the cutlery and things. Would it be possible to get a bit of a view of the table to see how you've how you do that?
Yeah,
that would be great.
So is that good? Can you see?
Yeah.
I can put one together. So
oh, that would be great. Yes, please.
I think we need less of the more of the table. Yeah, and more down, I think. So I would start. This is my favorite plate, my new favorite plate from Anthropology. It's kind of a terracotta with pink scalloped edge, and I think what's so lovely, pink, pale pink for Christmas with burgundy, I think is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I have this, and then I have a side plate, or kind of like a mini bowl that goes on top, like this. Goes on top, and then I have a really beautiful burgundy napkin. And the thing that I really like to do is to have a contrast. So, and you know, you can see here the burgundy goes so beautifully with the pink and the terracotta.
Yeah.
And then what I will do is place this on the plate, like so. And then place the bowl on top. And then put your snow globe on top.
Oh, so sweet.
You've got a little.
Yeah. And how do you arrange your cutlery, Fiona?
I always start with, you go at, so basically main course fork, starter fork, main course knife, and then fish knife. And then I found this really cute little knife in a vintage store. And I think, I don't really know what it's used for. I kind of in my mind have it used for butter. I use it for butter or for like a little cheese platter afterwards. But I quite like having all of these fancy little knives.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I think we've had a few questions about napkins as well. So how do you do you've shown us how you did the napkin with that setting. Do you have any other tips for sort of ways to make your napkins look good?
Sorry, any other tips for what?
Making your napkins look good.
Yeah, I really like to, well, there's a couple of things. I really like an informal napkin.
Mm-hmm.
I basically like to do it in a bow. I do it in a, like this. And then roll it over. Thank you. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, so basically,
Yeah.
Put it in a triangle. Roll it over. And then I just tie it in a knot in the middle. Like that. Here.
Oh yeah.
And then what's really nice is that it's quite, I don't know, it reminds me, of course, anything that reminds me of a bow or a ribbon is amazing, I think.
Yeah.
But also it's got like an informality around it. So that's
it still looks really festive. Oh yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, yeah.
When you're layering like this, and it just goes across like that, I think that looks really pretty. Another thing I really like to do is sometimes I just put it so that it is not on the plate. You know, the whole thing about all of these things and layering and tablescaping is just not having too many things competing with each other. You know, it's like if you've got a menu and then you've got a cracker and then you've got a plasmont, and you just want things to kind of be in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, sorry, I'm just gonna have a sip of water. I've had the worst cold since Saturday.
So it's sort of keep it quite simple, but go big on your colour scheme and your sort of festive finishing touches.
Totally. So this is another way of doing a napkin, and it's really simple, where you basically just put it in a line like this, and then I just really put it underneath my plate so that it's not like a big feature, but it looks kind of like it's elegantly draped. Like
oh yeah, yeah.
And that's really nice if it's a contrast color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, well, thank you so much, Fiona. It's just really, really lovely tips there and great advice on colour schemes and placement and everything. So thank you. I think we've got lots of inspiration. Thank you so much, Bryony, for your gift wrapping hacks as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in. That's it for now. Thank you so much. Goodbye.